Okay, New York State Racing Parimutuel Wagering and Breeding Law, Section 102, provides that the New York State Gaming Commission shall consist of 7 members appointed by the governor by and with the advice and consent of the Senate. 6 members having been confirmed by the New York State Senate affords the Commission an ability to establish a quorum and undertake action. This present meeting of the Commission is now called to order. Ms. Secretary, will you please call the roll?
John Crotty.
Here.
Mark Gearin.
Here.
Peter Machete.
Here.
John Patamba.
Here.
Barry Sample.
Here.
Todd Snyder.
Here.
Ms. Secretary, will you please have the record reflect that a quorum of qualified members are present, thus enabling the transaction of business. Commissioner Machete is participating by telephone. Please note that his appearance is not for the purposes of quorum establishment or voting. The record should also reflect that there is two-way audio and visual communication established between the 3 sites. Chairman Guerin?
Thank you, Rob, and thank you to all my commissioners at various locations here. Minutes of the commission meeting from our meeting conducted on August 21st, 2014 have been provided to members in advance, and so at this time I'd like to ask the members if there are any edits or corrections or any amendments.
Mr. Chairman, I think, if I'm not mistaken, at that meeting I was in attendance by telephone in the way that Commissioner Machete is today, and maybe that could be reflected. Other than that, I have no comment.
Thank you. Any other edits or amendments? Great. Well, hearing that and with that amendment, Madam Secretary, please let the record reflect that the minutes were adopted as amended. Next on our agenda is the report of the Executive Director. Rob?
Thank you. I'd like to discuss 2 items of some potential interest. The first regards the casino commercial development process. The Gaming Facility Location Board has been very busy since our last meeting. First, in early September, they conducted 2 full days of applicant presentations in Albany. And then second, they conducted 3 consecutive 12-hour days of regional public comment events, 1 in Albany, followed by 1 in Poughkeepsie, followed by 1 in Ithaca. The attendance was very significant at all 3 events. Each day was also web streamed and drew substantial interest. DVDs of the applicant presentations, plus each of the applicants' PowerPoints or keynote presentations, were already sent to each one of you. DVDs of the public comment events will also be forwarded to your attention when they become available. The board has now completed their public events, and members are now in the process of reviewing the voluminous materials. They remain confident that they can reach a decision in late October, but have already indicated that if the volume of materials requires, they will take the time necessary to appropriately deliberate. Next, at the risk of being presumptuous, I'd like to briefly discuss a new lottery game that, presuming the Commission adopts the operational rules later this meeting, will commence on October 19th. The new game is called the Monopoly Millionaires Club. This game affords the player 3 chances to win with each ticket. In the primary drawing, in the secondary drawing, and then by collecting tickets, combinations of which earn chances to appear in a national game show where you can win further prizes. The top tier amount available will begin at an annuitized amount of $15 million. If the top prize ticket is not sold, the subsequent drawing would be increased to $18 million, then to $21 million, and then to a final level of $25 million. The top tier prize would remain at $25 million for each subsequent drawing until a ticket is sold, winning ticket is sold, after which it will reset to $15 million. Lower level prizes will be a one-time payment ranging from $5 to $100,000. Lump sum prizes of $1 million will be awarded in the secondary drawings. An interesting element of the game regards the collection of Monopoly properties. Players collect the properties identified on their game tickets and attempt to make sets on the Monopoly Millionaire Club microsite. Completed property sets generate entries for players to be on a televised game show where a contestant may win up to $1 million. Overall, on each game show, there will be $2.5 million in each prizes. Hasbro Studios is producing the show. Tapings are beginning in January, with the first airing in February. Billy Gardell of the TV show Mike and Molly will be the host. Back to you.
Great. We'll get to that a little bit later in the agenda as well. Thank you. Anything else for Rob in his report? Okay, next on our agenda is rulemaking. New York State Racing Parimutuel Wagering and Breeding Law, Section 104.19, authorizes the Commission to promulgate rules and regulations that it deems necessary to carry out its responsibilities. To that regard, the Commission will from time to time promulgate rules and rule amendments pursuant to the State Administrative Procedure Act. And so today we have 3 rulemaking items for consideration, and we'll ask Rob to outline the various proposals.
Okay, item 4A is consideration of a rule for permanent adoption. Specifically, this is the rule that I was referencing in my report. On July 28th, the Commission proposed a draft regulation governing the new multi-state draw game called Monopoly Millionaires Club. The public comment period expired on September 27th, and no public comment was received. Recall, as I mentioned, that the game affords a player 3 opportunities to win. We anticipate that the launch will occur on October 19th, and the estimated aid to education in this game generated through the end of the current fiscal year will be $10 million. This proposed rulemaking was published in the August 13th, 2014 State Register. The only change to the text is trademark designation of the Monopoly trademark and of this game. Staff recommends the adoption of these rules as amended to reflect the trademark.
So to the commissioners, are there any questions on the adoption of the rules for the Monopoly Millionaires Club multi-state lottery draw game? Any questions for Rob or discussion? Okay, so hearing none, may I have a motion to adopt the rules for the Monopoly Millionaires Club multi-state lottery draw game?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. The motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Great. Well, let's bring it to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. The motion carries. Rob?
Item 4B regards rules pertaining to gaming facility request for application and gaming facility license application. Specifically, on March 31st, 2014, the Commission promulgated emergency rules prescribing both forms for the request for applications to develop and operate a gaming facility and several forms necessary to consider and process applications for gaming facility licenses. By publication in the State Register on July 16th, 2014, and again September 10th, 2014, the Commission extended this emergency rule or emergency adoption. The present emergency rule will expire on October 23rd. Accordingly, for Commission consideration is the readoption of Part 5300 as an emergency rule, with such readoption to be filed with the Department of State prior to the expiration of the current emergency rule. The text of the rules has not changed since the initial emergency adoption on March 31st. While the public comment period has expired and no public comment has been received, permanent adoption of this rule should be considered when the Commission has before it the broad set of proposed commercial casino regulations that are still being drafted. Commission staff recommends the approval of this emergency rulemaking.
Thank you, Rob. Commissioners, do we have any questions on the readoption of the rules pertaining to the gaming facility request for application and gaming facility license applications, with such readoption to be filed with the Department of State prior to the expiration of the current emergency rule? Any questions or discussion?
Yes, Lawrence, where do we you anticipate having a permanent rule?
We are drafting a very, very extensive set of regulations that would govern the entire commercial casino regulatory regime, and we would fold this in as a permanent with that larger set. It's possible those might be ready for your consideration by the end of the calendar year.
Is it, these forms have to do with the competition to gain the license, right?
Correct.
And those regulations would be regulations that would govern the operation of licensees who had won that competition. Is that correct?
As well as all of it. We'll fold everything
So it's
together into one comprehensive set.
Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions or discussion? Well, may I have a motion then to readopt rules pertaining to gaming facility requests for application and gaming facility license application?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Rod?
The last rulemaking item is a new proposal. For commission consideration is a staff recommendation to propose amendments to the rule on types of harness races offered in order to conform to legislation recently enacted. Specifically, Chapter 258 of the laws of 2014 allows harness tracks to run races solely for New York bred races, or horses, and further provides conditions may be written for such races, quote, notwithstanding any preference state requirements, end quote. Commission regulations already establish preference requirements for entry to harness races. The horses declared for a race are posted with preference states, which allow a horse a fair opportunity to enter a race based upon when the horses have last raced. The new rule would amend the existing Rule 4108.8 to add a new subdivision C to lift the preference state requirements to be consistent with the new statute. Staff recommends the proposal of this rule.
Great. And that would require an affirmative vote here as well, Rob, correct?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Why don't we put a motion on the table for the proposed rulemaking for preferences in harness races? Could I have a motion?
Can I just ask a question? Was this was, I don't remember, this was subjected to public comment?
No, this is going out for public comment.
I got it. Very good. Thank you.
This is the initial step in that process.
Thank you. Sorry.
But it still requires, yeah,
In which case, I'll make a motion to send it out for public comment.
great. Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is adopted for proposed rulemaking for preferences here, as Rob stated. Okay. Moving on our agenda here to new business and old business. I'd like to acknowledge Lisa Lee as the Gaming Commission's Inspector General. This is the first meeting that she has attended. And so I'd like to invite Ms. Lee to take a moment here to welcome you formally to your important responsibilities and to offer you the chance to introduce yourself and the work of your office. And we look very much forward to working with you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lisa Lee, and I just recently commenced serving as the Gaming Inspector General pursuant to the Upstate New York Gaming Economic Development Act. The position reports directly to the governor, but it was created to promote transparency and accountability, as well as to ensure the honesty and integrity of not just gaming activities, but commission employees and those that do business with the commission. I am also tasked with furthering the overall mission of the organization, which is to ensure that all gaming activities conducted within the state of New York is of the highest integrity, credibility, and quality. To that end, my primary function will be to investigate allegations of corruption, criminal activity, fraud, conflicts of interest, as well as abuse within the Commission. All Commission employees have an affirmative obligation to report any misconduct or any such activity directly to my office. To that end, my contact information is available on the homepage of the Gaming Commission's website. Sorry, I was distracted. Just a little bit about my background. I'll be very brief. Prior to coming here today, I served as the Deputy Inspector General for the New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation, a multi-billion-dollar public benefit corporation that provides health care to New Yorkers. I was there for 9 years. I was in charge of supervising as well as conducting investigations of highly confidential and sensitive matters. Prior to that, I served as an examining attorney to the New York City Department of Investigations for 6 years, doing similar work, supervising and conducting investigations into allegations of criminal activity and violations of other law. And I'm just going to go back a little bit further because I don't want to give away my age, but I did commence my career in the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office before moving on. So I'm very excited to be here, and I look forward to working with everybody. Thank you.
Could you tell us a little bit about your staff?
At this juncture, I do not have staff. I'm here on the ground floor to set up the bones of the office. And I envision as things roll out, I'll be able to accumulate staff.
And what types of positions would you be looking for? Attorneys, accountants?
I think at the outset I'm going to have the assistant would be helpful in sort of setting up the structure of the office. And then thereafter, someone that is technologically savvy, an auditor perhaps, investigators, and eventually counsel will be very helpful to move the mission forward.
Was there any existing structure that you can look upon?
There are other similarly situated Inspector General's office that I can look at, but because gaming is so unique, it's really going to be an evolutionary process.
How about in the Gaming Commission offices itself, are there people that perform similar functions?
I don't think there's anybody performing the function that's envisioned for this office at this juncture.
And how do you see yourself interacting with the internal revenue?
I think the work that we're going to look at are going to be different in terms of the scope or the issues. My office would be more focused primarily on issues touching on criminal activity, and I envision the internal auditor's office focusing more on policy and procedure issues.
Thank you.
How long have you held in hospitals?
9 years.
Oh, wow.
Says a lot.
Well, seen it all.
Right. Any other discussion for Ms. Lee?
Good luck.
Thank you.
for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I thought we might take a minute, as we have some time here in terms of new business as well, for Ed Burns to provide us, the Commission here, with an overview on the status of the adjudicatory system reform project that Legal has undertaken. Ed, if you could give us an update, I think that would be very helpful.
Sure. One of my associates, Rick Adele, who handles a lot of the racing hearing matters, and I had a very productive meeting with Commissioner Machete in the Capital Region over the summer and shared some of his ideas and perspectives on how we could improve the timeliness of the process through tightening up our regulations a little bit. Heretofore, I think a lot has been left to the discretion of the hearing officer, and I think we agree as staff we'd be well advised to constrain the hearing officers a little more to make sure that all the adjudications are heading toward the goal of resolution on a more expedited basis. So to that end, we have internally developed a very detailed outline of the issues and types of steps, and we're in the process of turning that into proposed rule language that we'll put before the commissioners as a proposed rule, if not the next meeting, the meeting after.
Great. That's helpful. Any questions from the commissioners to Ed in this regard? Great. Thank you, Peter, for your ongoing engagement with Ed and his colleagues in that regard. Any other new business from the Commission to consider here? Okay. For old business, any old business that we want to put before the Commission? Great. We are working on the date for our next scheduled meeting in and around October 27th. If commissioners could advise Ms. Buckley on your availability, that would be very helpful to all of us. That concludes today's published agenda. Let me just open and invite any commissioners who have any items they'd like to present for any other consideration here before we adjourn. No? Well, hearing none.
The scheduling of the next meeting, the earlier we can set a date, and I don't want to be selfish here, but the better it is for me. The last minute changing of the time makes it extremely difficult for me with the nature of the practice here, and I hate not to be there with you guys, when we're having a meeting, because obviously it's so important. So if we could get a fixed date as early as possible, that would really be helpful. And selfishly, even if we could get one for the next date and the date after, at least then we could work our schedules around that.
I agree with that, Peter. It's certainly the intent and the goal to get as far out as we possibly can, even if we have to amend it. But for planning purposes, I think for everyone that would be most useful. Point well taken, and we will come back.
I just find out that the staff is we're putting more work to them to try and get squared away, the 6 of us, and it seems like that's wasted time.
Right. Yep. Point well taken. Any other items before we adjourn here? Well, hearing none, this meeting of the New York State Gaming Commission is adjourned, and I thank you all very much for your time and focus. Have a good day.